Hello all, James here. Now, the best wrestling promotion at the moment in wrestling today, for my money at least, and granted, I've not watched all of the promotions out there, or at least extensively, because there's just only so many hours in the day. But for a pure, unadulterated return to the basic fundamental tenets of what makes pro wrestling enjoyable, most importantly as well, how the fans interact with the wrestlers and vice versa. For my money, the best promotion out there isn't WWE, it isn't AEW, it isn't TNA, it isn't anything like that. It's AAA. Specifically, I want to give an example of why I think this is the best feud going in wrestling today. And it is the El Grande Americano, OG, versus the new El Grande Americano, Chad Gable and Ludwig Kaiser, allegedly, of course. Now, in WWE, if you've just been watching WWE programming, here's what you've seen, really. El Grande Americano OG turned up. It was a really great gimmick, a bit of controversy at the beginning because he billed himself from the Gulf of America, but it was a parody on luchadors, of course, and, he was saying 100 years old and all that kind of business. Then he got injured. Ludwig Kaiser took over the role the next week, and he was even better, and he played it kind of like oddly effeminately, and then he had a couple of, flunkies with him as well, and it worked out even better, in my opinion, probably in a lot of people's opinion, dare I say. So anyway, this feud between original versus new was going to finally culminate, obviously, when Chad recovered from his injury, and it happened at the Royal Rumble this year in Saudi Arabia, and their face-off was kind of one giant wet fart, quite frankly, and I don't even know why. The Saudi Arabian crowd were not interested. They didn't care for much for either wrestler for whatever reason, and 6 months of build just fizzled out before it even got going. And then on television over the next, month or two, OG, which I'm going to refer to the Chad Gable version from now on, he wrestled some of new Americano's Gophers, a couple of matches. They lasted too long. I don't know why he just didn't kind of run through them to obviously get to the new guy. But then they had a singles match on Raw about a month ago, OG versus new, and it was about 10 minutes, and kind of it was a disappointment. I don't know, for whatever reason, the crowd weren't that into it. It just wasn't the setting for it, and it's been building for so long, and it's just not really done it for, I guess, WWE fans. But that is if you only watch WWE. If you watch AAA at all, you'd be forgiven for asking why this feud isn't topping the bill at WrestleMania, because it's loads of fun, the fans are absolutely super into it, and it's great. Now, anyway, original OG El Grande Americano is absolutely hated south of the border for reasons I'm not actually quite sure why, and the new one is beloved. Anyway, the heat is out of this world for the matches actually on the AAA show, the full episode that aired 3 days ago, or 4 days ago, I think, and it's OG versus Octagon Jr. I can't really turn the music on in this because I just want to show you just the intro because it's always just hilarious. I'll play some audio later as well so you can get more of an idea with all of the... In fact, why don't I do that now? Hang on. Because I just like the crab walk.
It's for the sake of Americano. Differentiation, John. We had to figure out a way. He's the...
Stupid Octagon, for goodness sake. Are you actually going to cheer or what? Here we go.
Final. Then again on Monday Night Raw.
I do like the, I definitely do like the Zoidberg mixed with Richard Nixon cheer as well. But anyway, it was, it was a match for what it was. For some reason, it didn't end in disqualification, even though OG took Octagon Jr.'s mask off. But that's not the point anyway. So, we get through the match, 5.5 minutes, the crowd boo him, and it's a great crowd. It's always a great crowd in AAA, which makes the shows just like eminently more watchable than WWE, for example, for many reasons. I'll get to them later on. But anyway, after OG won, a lovely lady interviewed a couple of well-known faces, I guess, in the crowd. One of them was a singer, and then another one was a comedian called Ojitos del Huevo. And
over here we have a good friend.
Comedian. He confused himself. He talks about how he's the Stevie Wonder of comedy, and I didn't get that until I looked it up why he mentioned that. I just thought he was a really good singer. And here's a fun fact for you. Stevie Wonder has actually said in interviews that as a kid he was a massive wrestling fan, but he's never been able to see it. But for whatever reason, wrestling kind of weirdly translates, maybe it's the crowd, the music, everything else, translates quite well to the sight-impaired. Who would know? Anyway, this is another sight-impaired fan who is well known, and he talks about not wanting to watch, which is probably a bad choice of words, the OG Americano, and then praises the new folk hero like El Grande Americano. Once again, the new Americano is bizarrely popular. Everybody cheers his name. And then OG does this.
What are you doing?
Grabs him by the lapels and then lobs him over, and then puts the ankle lock on him, and it is absolutely great. The fans are going absolutely nuts, and the fans, I can't stress enough, are just great in this promotion, great in Mexico in general as well. So anyway, OG drags the comedian over, puts the ankle lock on him. JBL then says, well, he didn't see that coming. The commentary's good as well. It goes to show you when just everything's more fun, where you just don't have a load of people above you, I guess, judging you and dissecting every single little decision you make. So anyway, El Grande Americano, the OG, then stalks the lovely lady around ringside for a good few seconds. And it turns out that the new Grande Americano, Ludwig Kaiser, is running out to defend the interviewer's honour, because it turns out, if nothing else, that is his real-life girlfriend that I hadn't realised.
Oh! The real Grande Americano!
Also, just of the timing, I've just got to rewind that again. His music actually kicks in at the point of contact, which is just the absolute best thing in the entire world.
Legend! Oh! The real
Brilliant. Anyway, I can't show you the entire thing. I'd absolutely love to show you the entire thing. They go on to have, and I promise you this, it's not like Steve Austin level of pop, because quite frankly, nothing is. But it's not that far off, quite frankly. The crowd flies into a frenzy, as much as the new El Grande flew in for that flying forearm. And do you know what it is? Apart from the fact that I love seeing wrestlers run full pelt. Don't ask me why. It was great when Ric Flair did it as well, to the point that he got so energized by, attacking people that he'd sometimes miss them and roll over the top of entire groups of people. But the Americanos proceed to have a brawl 98,000 times better and more believable than Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton did on SmackDown. I said this at the time. Their brawl was kind of sports entertainment, boring brawl that you see, punch back and forth, and then Cody got the better of him, and then sorry, that was the week before, I think. Yes, that was the week before. My apologies. When Pat McAfee debuted, of course. How could I forget? That brawl looked like ass. That one, that I'm going to show you just a few more seconds of.
Kano! We have chaos at ringside!
It's like, that's a brawl. Why can't anyone do brawls anymore? But that's a brawl. It was great. And, I think a lot of people say, I'm always negative on stuff. Like, yeah, it's because I'm watching WWE all the time. I don't watch good wrestling as much as I should do. That's good wrestling. That's a good story. And they continue to brawl throughout as well. And can I also just point out that this is the best brawl into, like, a real suplex ever.
Whoa!
It's amazing. And they continue on like this for minutes on end as well. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make here is that was better than anything I've seen this year in wrestling. I absolutely promise you, because it looked more real than anything. And they're both wearing ridiculous spangly masks as well. So what makes the rest of the show good? I'm not going to review the entire show, but in the opening thing, a woman gets her face shoved in a cake, the cornet rule. If there is a cake introduced, or it's like, Pavlov's cake, it must be used by Act 3. Penta fights for Kingo, and the best thing of the show is, and here's what's so important, is the fans. The fans are so great. They're reacting like a crowd from 30 years ago. Tons of women and kids in the audience as well. It's got a great noise, great resonance. Loads of guys trying to get at the heels in the entry, actually trying to swipe at them and giving them the middle finger, so there's like genuine heat as well. It's so much fun. I can't stress it. I will put a link to the show. If you can't find it yourself, you should be able to. It's on WWE's YouTube, but it's in the live section. But anyway, later in the Penta for Kingo match, the Americanos briefly come out to brawl again. And it's still great. It doesn't stop being really, really good and really, really fun. And it just adds to the unpredictable nature of the show. It's almost like a good Attitude Era Russo version, of Raw back in the day. Just stuff keeps happening, and it's exciting. When it worked as well. So anyway, regarding the AAA show, the shows are an hour. I cannot stress enough how much better it is to just jam-pack a load of stuff happening in 1 hour instead of stretching it out like blue tack or stretch Armstrong's, limbs or something like that to try and fit 3 hours for SmackDown. You have an hour's worth of material for a 3-hour show, and then everything just moves around, moves along. Just, it's a complete slog. I always use the word a slog. That is what WWE shows are. This is the opposite. It's fast-paced. It's like the old Superstars, except not as many matches, of course. But no fluff, just high adrenaline stuff, and then we'll see you next week. Perfect. Now, I'm sure people, once again are bemoaning me, about me complaining about WWE a lot. Yeah, there's reasons, because it's nowhere near as good as it used to be. This is good. Anyway, the AAA show Zing by, I recommend it highly. And although you can see there are definitely some WWE influences apart from the logo, of course, like the where they put the belt on a plinth and the announce table and stuff like that, and other little things. It's still a pretty authentic product as AAA. It's not authentic Lucha Libre, because AAA was never meant to be authentic Lucha, traditional Lucha Libre. But Triple H was never like that. But the shows are pretty well booked, well wrestled, and the audience genuinely cares, and that's what makes it fun. Now, the audience for the modern WWE product are overcharged, of course, for their tickets, exhausted within the first hour, from incessant backstage segments and adverts and 25-minute promos, and they only get 4 matches. And I did check this up. I mentioned it on the Stevie show that will be coming out tomorrow, that Raw on Monday, I think, had 36.5 minutes wrestling for over 2.5 hours. So 4/5 of your time watching Raw was not watching wrestlers wrestle. Now, my only criticism of the show, and I'm going to try and find... that's a good example. My only real criticism of AAA at the moment, it relates to the lighting and the colour grading of the shows, because it's just too dark and too cool for me. Now, it looks like something that was shot 15 years early, and I realise it gives the show its own distinct look, but it hurts my eyes a bit squinty, and it needs to be a little easier to view for my liking. It needs to be a little warmer, needs to be better lit in the ring. Now, if you haven't watched CMLL either recently, it's a similar pleasure to watch as well. It feels like North American and UK wrestling fans especially are just so jaded and cynical. I am one of them. And how can they not be when the best American wrestling was 30 years ago and it's never even got close to, attaining those heights ever again? You just sit there kind of hoping WWE will sort of... Hey, Pat McAfee might be onto something. He's trying to bring back the Attitude Era. Great, I hope he does. But he hasn't so far. And I don't know what Randy Orton winning his 15th title is going to do to change things. But anyway, in Mexico, wrestling is so much more fun and interactive, and I advise you all to give it a go if you've never really watched it before, but especially the new AAA stuff that I'm enjoying. I will include a link in the description, and I think you will be pleasantly surprised if you do give it a go. And the shows that Undertaker and Jeremy Borash and co are booking at the moment, they're clearly doing a good job, and they're clearly doing a good job booking the TV and sort of setting and pacing everything out, especially not... I'm sure it does help, as I said before, not being oppressed by TKO, the ever-watchful eye of TKO, or having a bunch of sycophants basically try and suck up to try and please Triple H, who in turn has to please his bosses with every single decision they make. Now, The Undertaker announced yesterday that there will be a mask versus mask match between the Americanos on May 30th, and hopefully the new Grande will win it, because quite frankly, as good as Chad Gable has been, Ludwig Kaiser is better, more popular, works better. He actually speaks Spanish, among other things. I know the original joke was that the OG couldn't speak Spanish and just pretended he could, but the fans love him because he can speak Spanish, and he's a huge asset, more to AAA than WWE. So I'm so glad that this match is not taking place at WrestleMania, because there are too many feuds potentially culminating at WrestleMania. You need to have some matches that are just, that are just there, and to fill up the card, and then the main the main matches have the blow-offs, as it were. I'm glad this isn't getting lost in the shuffle, and I'm glad that it's going to be... I'm pretty sure it's going to be with AAA as well, so you'll get the best reactions from the fans, and I'll be tuning into it. That is my video, and it's a positive video, for goodness sake, for once, so I hope the views do well, and if they don't do well, then you'll know that most fans just tune in for misery anyway, so there you go. I'll see you soon for the next video, which might be later today, in fact, talking about another former AAA star, Alberto Del Rio.